The Career Seeker Show on WPPM LP Philadelphia.
I've been waiting oh so long for this. Knew I was gonna get to tap it back in the beginning. And if you want it, you can have it. You just gotta stick with it. I've been waiting a long time for this. I've been waiting oh so long for this. Knew I was about to get it way back in the beginning. And if you want it, you can have it. You just gotta stick with it. I've been waiting a long time for this. I deserve it. I've been working and the time is here. Knew it was gonna belong to me way back in the beginning. If you want it, you can have it. You just gotta stick with it. I've been waiting a long time for this. I deserve it. I've been working and the time is here. Knew it was gonna belong to me way back in the beginning. If you want it, it's there. You just gotta go get it.
It's the Career Seeker Show live on WPPM FM 106.5 Philadelphia. I'm your host and the world's #1 diversity recruiter, Kenneth L. Johnson, and I've been waiting a long time to bring you the Career Seekers team. Tiffany Sutherland, career coach, Alberta Bertolino, recruitment coach, videographer Will Martin, and together we are your #1 source for career and job search information. We'll be back after the break.
The Career Seeker Show on WPPM FM Philadelphia. Insightful advice for those seeking more than just a job, but a career from the nation's top diversity recruiter, Kenneth L. Johnson. Whether you're starting your career, changing careers, or looking for that next great opportunity, the Career Seeker Show provides a virtual GPS that delivers real career advice that leads you to your career destination.
It's the Career Seeker Show live on WPPM FM 106.5 Philadelphia. Woo! Excited to be here. Extremely excited to be here. We do this every Wednesday from 4 to 5 on 106.5 LP Philadelphia. You can tune in at phillycam.org, or we're broadcasting live on the East Coast Executive Facebook fan page. No problems at all. I got my man, Mr. Bruce Savage, with me today, checking in to do that best of the Career Seeker Show. You know what, Bruce? Real quick, I want to holler at you. I know you're always behind the camera, but I want to circle back out and wish you a happy belated Father's Day, my friend. I'm excited today, man. We got a special guest going to be live in studio today. Alberta Bloom is coming in today as well. But, man, our special guest, Donald Hatter today. Just incredible gentleman. I'm going to bring him on in a few, but I just want to talk to everybody and see how everything is going in the beautiful city of Philadelphia. I have a special shout out to my Connect to Work class. We wrapped that thing up, and they graduate tomorrow, man. We've been doing 6 weeks of intensive job and career search learning, and everybody is excited. We got a couple people that have landed opportunities, and I'm just thankful for the opportunity to just be a part of that process for them. Had a conversation today with Miss, no one, I'm not even going to share her name because she told me she does not want to speak about her recent job until she gets out of orientation. She's in orientation now. She said, look, don't say anything about me landing this job until I get through this orientation process. But she told me that 3 other people from our New Choices cohort have secured employment as well. So we're just trying to make differences out here, man. That's what we do. It's the Career Seeker Show. Your man, Kenneth L. Johnson. You know, I want to shout out my son. I'm gonna have a family portion of the show today. My son yesterday graduated from the 8th grade. He was part of the 2018 Mott Hall 2 class in Manhattan. They graduated from Columbia University. Hopefully he can come back there to that actual location 8 years from now and do it again. That'd be nice, right? So congratulations to all the students at Mott Hall, Manhattan, 109 Broadway, Amsterdam. I appreciate y'all. That is a great accomplishment. So thank you so very much to my son, KL, for making his mom and dad and sister happy. Let's see. What else we got going on? Father's Day, like I said, just passed. Thanks to everyone who just kind of reached out and wished me well wishes. You know, I got a lot of calls, Bruce, for Father's Day because it just so happened that my son and I showed up in the Huffington Post Black Voices piece for fathers that debuted on Father's Day. So we was kind of big balling, actually. You know, when you show up in Huffington Post, that's always a good look. So with that being said, it's been a good week, man. I'm not complaining about this week. But all of that is fine. Today is Wednesday. It's 4 o'clock. As I promised you last week when we had my man Jamil Rush, Suleiman Rahman, Greg DeShields on the show for a special show celebrating the careers of African American males, I promised you that we were not done. We're never done celebrating African American males or just celebrating people that are out here helping others in their career point blank. And we're going to do that today in a big way. Ladies and gentlemen, today I have Mr. Donald Hatter on the show today. Donald, man, thanks for coming out and hanging out with the Career Seeker Show.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Glad to be here.
Man, I am so glad to have you. I'm going to explain the history of this situation, then I'll let Donald speak for himself. But we both are members of the Forbes Coaches Council, and I just kept seeing Donald, man, pop up all over the World Wide Web, just dropping gems of information for people regarding careers, regarding sales, regarding professional development, you name it. He was giving exceptional information. And anytime, listeners, anytime you see someone that is just giving out a ton of great information, I encourage you to reach out, connect with him on Twitter, hit him on LinkedIn, do whatever you need to do to make yourself part of their network. So, Donald, I want to commend you for all the great stuff you get out and share with people. But if you can, speaking of sharing, share with our listeners who Donald Hatter is, please.
Absolutely, absolutely. So thanks again for being here. I am always excited to be back in the Philadelphia area. I live in Houston, Texas, but still claim Westchester, Pennsylvania as my hometown. So excited to be here. A little bit more about me. Way back when, even back to high school days, I'd listen to speakers like Les Brown, and I knew even though I was going to go to college and get a corporate job, ultimately what I wanted to do was be a motivational speaker.
Okay.
And a couple of years ago, so I'd been doing that for a number of years, and a couple of years ago decided to really do it full time because I believe in taking the blessings I've been given and combining it with experience and doing some research and being able to present information in a way that's unique, that hopefully people were able to get it and pick up on and feel like they're further to achieving their goals than they would have been. So went out, developed these speeches, almost finished a complete book.
Of speeches?
The motivational speaking book.
Wow, okay.
I didn't even finish the title. But what I learned is you can go and you can do these presentations and people would get really, really excited, but ultimately it would be short-term enthusiasm. Mm-hmm. So you get people excited at a conference or an association meeting, and as soon as they got back to their job, that's all they thought about.
Right.
And I'm like, it's not just me, because if you think about what happens on, let's say, Sunday mornings all across the country, people are in church.
Yes.
Right? They get really excited by the sermon. They don't even leave the parking lot before they're thinking about
sometimes
what's
they're not out of the
Monday
church,
morning.
right? Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, and with the advent of cell phones and things, now you have people in church checking email, which is, that's not really the way you want it.
I'm one of those people. I always, my mother nudged me one day. I'm like, look, I pulled out the Bible on my phone. Like, what are you talking about? I had to flip over the screen and kind of show it out. But I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So ultimately what I decided was, okay, that book that was almost written, let me put it aside. Let me figure out how I can help people with their careers.
Okay.
The first book I wrote was 10 Things Great Sales Leaders Don't Do. And it was really okay, out of all the books and great sales knowledge and experts, here are really 10 things I still see people doing. So whether they were a career sales professional or whether they were an entrepreneur or business owner, it's like, here, look through these. If you're doing any of them, stop doing it.
Okay, so 10 things people, the title of the book was?
10 Things Great Sales Leaders Don't Do.
Okay. But you were giving information on things that people do that they need to stop doing.
Absolutely.
I love it. Okay.
Absolutely. And it's like, okay, I'm not trying to teach you a whole new set of sales skills. I'm just open the book. If you do none of the things, close the book, you're on your way.
I don't want
some of the things, then maybe you should.
So I don't want to put you on the spot here, but we have a lot of people that are sales professionals that tune into the show. We have a lot of people that may not believe they're sales professionals, but really do operate in a sales role, whether you're a recruiter or whatever it is. Can you share some of those 10 tips that you offered? Can you paraphrase on any of them?
Yeah. So one of them was the title of the chapter was Great Sales Leaders Don't Assume Prospects Can't Read. And what that was all about was I often get messages from vendors on my phone, and the second message will be just following up on the first message, like assuming I didn't read the first message.
Right.
And as soon as I see that, all the person has really done is told me that what's in the second message is probably about as valuable as what was in that first message, which is why I ignored it. So the whole idea, the whole idea of the chapter was, look, when you're, and this goes across, professions. Well, like if you're communicating with someone, do two things real simple. One, just make sure you spell things correctly.
Yes,
like,
indeed.
Sounds simple, but
so for you, is that an immediate, I'm not going to deal with you, like you didn't take the time to proofread this? Because a lot of times that focus, that happens with resumes as well. People have typos on the resume, and I tell them it's over pretty much.
Well, it all depends. It makes me wonder about your follow-through.
Sure, okay.
But the second part, and probably a little bit more important, make sure when you're communicating via email, you actually put something in there so that the person that's receiving it cares about it.
Okay.
We communicate because I want to tell you something, but I don't often sit back and say, okay, why would Kenneth actually care about what I'm, because once you start doing it that way, then you start realizing maybe I should either reword the email or not send it at all.
This is why we're having this conversation. So this morning I was watching one of the TED Talks. And it was, I can't remember what, why do I want to say Steven Sinek? This was the Golden Circle TED Talk.
Simon Sinek.
Yeah. Simon Sinek. And I watched that and I watched another one, but it kind of came down to the why. Why is it that you're doing this? Not, I have this product, but why am I selling this product, and why do you need this product? And it seems like that's kind of what you were speaking of right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek. I recommend people look at his TED Talks as well. He's actually referenced in the book.
Oh, really?
Because so much
I love it.
of increasing the perception of your value has to deal with being able to motivate individuals. And you have to get to their why, right? You have to fuel their passion or figure out what they're passionate about if you want to motivate them.
Sure.
And I believe that.
Outstanding. Okay, so that was one thing that you covered. I'm not going to make you go over this whole book. Trust me, I promise you. But now I'm so excited to have the opportunity to read it. I think when we spoke initially, you told me to go on to Amazon and grab that. So I need to do that. All right, I didn't do it and before you came, but this was quick. So anyway, give me something else, man. I'm loving this.
Well, so I primarily talk and present in three different areas. That's leadership, professional development, sales, and marketing. We're just talking about. The underlying theme to all of it is really helping people figure out how to manage the perception of their value.
Okay.
So oftentimes when you start talking about valuable, people misconstrue like how good they are at doing something with their value. So if you're going to be successful in your career, we have to figure out how do you manage that? Like how do you manage the perception of your value so you can increase your influence? So whether or not you need that influence to be a leader or whether or not you need that influence just to move up the ladder, it kind of all goes together.
Sure.
So really the book is kind of tactical, but that's at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. How do I get put in a position where if the company says there's going to be mass layoffs, I already know where I stand. Right. You want to know kind of where you stand, and so that's what I talk a lot about.
Okay, excellent. I tell you what I'd like to do real quick. Let's take a break. You're listening to the Career Seeker Show live, WPPM 106.5 LP Philadelphia. We are just getting started with my man Donald Hatter. It is going to be a great show because I just have something special for you when we come back after the break. It's the Career Seeker Show. Let's go.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
It's the Career Seeker Show live, WPPM 106.5 in Philly. Everybody in Philly, honk your horn, man, if you're listening to us. It's what we do.
Seekers.
Yes, you heard the voice. She's returned.
Oh, my
Alberta
gosh.
is out from under like 80 wrecks. Yeah, she's back. She's back. We got Donald Hatter here. Hey, Alberta, let me introduce you to Donald. This is Donald Hatter.
Hey, Donald.
Hanging
Nice
out
to
with
meet
us.
you. Hi.
I feel at home.
Sidekick
Excellent.
Alberta Bloom. You are at home. Westchester Zone, I might add. University of Penn
okay.
as well.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice. I
so
saw
this
that
is
Penn
home.
piece. Yeah,
so
that's
this is
awesome.
home.
Yeah, can't get away from here, huh?
You know what? It's interesting because Alberta's daughter hangs out in that same West Philly neighborhood that you spent years in. Her daughter's a Drexel alum.
Just graduated
Yep.
last Friday.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
You know what? Now that we're doing this, we're coming off of Father's Day, so let's
Yep.
just mention that Donald has 2 daughters as well.
Nice.
Three.
Oh,
Three.
congratulations.
I know one, if not 2, are matriculating at.
At University of Pittsburgh.
Let's talk about the Panthers. Let's talk. He has
I
the
just
smartest kids in the world. I love it.
So
I just mentioned the Steelers today, but go ahead.
yeah, we don't really like the Steelers like that.
Yeah, but the Panthers. We're talking about the
We'll
Panthers.
stick with the Panthers. Yeah, so my oldest is a senior, going to be a senior at the University of Pittsburgh.
I love it.
My middle child is going to be a freshman at the University of Pittsburgh.
H2P.
And my third child is graduating June 1st, 2028.
Congratulations. That's really great. That's a lot. Do you know, maybe
2028. I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
we got 10
2028.
years.
we need to have him back.
It goes by fast. You do.
We've been talking about having a daughter show.
Yeah.
We try to put it together a couple of times.
try to-
Maybe we'll have you back to be part of have your
All the way to
daughters
Texas
on.
for the daughters. So yeah.
That's right.
Well, know what? You probably are going to come up and visit them anyway, and I think you're on some boards out at Pitt and things of that
Yeah,
nature.
so I
So
will be in Pittsburgh
Yeah.
at least once or twice.
we may have to
this
do.
fall.
We may
Yeah,
have to do
maybe
you
we'll figure that
remote.
out.
Maybe we'll just have you
Yeah.
tune in remote. You know, speaking of just really accomplished daughters, I would be remiss to not talk about our cameraman Bruce Savage's daughters. I think one is a Stanford alum, if I'm correct.
She's in med school.
Med school.
Oh my gosh, that's
And then the other-
fabulous.
And the other one is a Temple University engineering degree.
Love it. Love it.
This is
All
what we
right.
do, man.
STEM.
These really, really smart
Women in
kids. I'm
STEM,
telling y'all
love it.
kids now,
Yeah.
we're still paying tuition, so don't get smart with us as parents, all right? So, all right, so we're back. Career Seekers Show. Hit us up at US Career Seekers, or you can just tune in, 215-923-WPPM. You can hit us up on the hotline there. We are broadcasting live on the East Coast Executive Facebook fan page, streaming live at phillycam.org. It's a special day. Alberta Bloom is in the building. I was killing your name last week.
That's okay.
And Donald Hatter. So, Donald, we were speaking about the book AB. I know you came in during that conversation.
yeah.
And then during the break, you were speaking about something as well that you kind of noticed from viewing Donald's site.
Yeah, but also specifically to what you were just talking about is managing expectations. What I was clearly I need to do it for myself, like we were saying. But do you just talk about in the positive aspect of trying to make people think better of themselves to manage it, or do you also, because what I run into a lot of times with candidates who have this overinflated view of themselves and should be doing something else, so could work opposite. So does your book touch on that?
Well, so I think about it more so from the perspective of I'm on the job, and I need to make sure I manage expectations of people below me as well as people above me.
Okay.
So often we believe that, okay, well, if you tell me what it is I'm supposed to do, then I know it, and I assume that's expected. The reality is expectations and your task, or expectations and your goals, could be completely different. So, for example, I was on a sales team before where we all had a quota. So that was our goal, and you would assume that's the expectation. But it was a startup company, so the quota was really nebulous. 15 to 20% make quota.
Okay.
So what's the expectation?
What's the quota? Right, yeah.
Right, you're not firing everybody.
Right. Right.
But some people are getting fired. So what's truly
What does that look
what's
like?
truly
Yeah.
expected?
Yeah.
Or if you take the example I like to use in professional sports, at the end of each season, same with basketball, but in football, the Monday after the season is over, a certain number of coaches get fired.
Yes.
Sure.
Not all those coaches knew it was coming. Right?
Yeah.
So what was if you were surprised, you weren't doing a very good job of managing expectations, or you wouldn't be surprised.
Sure. All
Right.
right.
And then
Gotcha.
but what's
That makes sense.
expected
Sure.
isn't necessarily going to be the same as what the goal is. So the goal could be we're going to win the Super Bowl, but only one team does that.
Yeah.
So that's not really what's expected. So it's a process. It's you have to because a lot of times we don't say anything. We just kind of assume you told me to do X. If I do X, then
Everything's all right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, what's his name? Dwayne Casey, I believe, the coach of the Toronto Raptors. They were the number 1 seed in the East, but then lost to LeBron James and ended up they fired the coach. And it's like, okay, what was the expectation? We finished, we were number 1 in the East, granted, throughout the regular season, so 82 odd games. We lost to arguably the best player in the game ever. And I get fired? Like, that doesn't make much sense to me. Like, all right, I get fired because we lost to LeBron. Well, everybody else lost to LeBron as well, except for Steve Kerr. But yeah, I just think it's a really interesting concept. So manage the expectation.
Yeah, because in that example, Dwayne, when speaking to the media, for example, they'll ask you about your future, and they'll give an answer that I don't know, I don't think about it. But no, you need to be thinking.
You need to be thinking
You
about
know
it.
they
Sure.
are thinking about it too.
Yeah, you need to actually have the conversation as early as possible and as often as possible. What does this look like? Because at the end of the day, you want to exceed expectations. So it's very hard to exceed expectations if you don't know exactly what they are.
So as a career professional, where does that conversation take place? Is that just the next line up?
I think that conversation takes place anytime we're engaged in doing something.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
we could be peers working on a project. I need like it's just
Level set
like yeah
each time. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Huh.
There's no reason to be shy about it.
Wow. That's yeah. Because if you have the right peers, they may point out some things maybe that you're kind of missing or overlooking in your own performance that could be detrimental to you staying on.
Yeah. Right.
So.
Because
Right.
we use Dwayne Casey as an example, but I'm sure you see it all the time where people are like, I just never saw it coming.
Yeah. I was telling the story about a gentleman that was let go recently, and he called me, and he was in complete shock initially. And then I think after he kind of sat down and started processing the way things were going and the direction the organization was headed in and some of the peers that he was working with and what skill sets they brought to the table, I think it became a little clearer that, yeah, he was going to be the one out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Wow. Okay.
It's companies are constantly talking about who to keep, who to let go, who to hire, who to fire. And if you're not involved in those conversations, they're talking
about you. Okay.
So the question becomes,
Yeah.
what are they saying? So that the book Becoming Invaluable is all about being like LeBron was, for example, 3 years ago, where it's like at the end of the year, okay, we got to take care of LeBron first, and then we'll talk about everybody else. Same thing in corporate America or either nonprofit organizations, for example.
And it's probably important for people individually to compartmentalize. Like, you might not be the most valuable person organizationally. However, you might be the most valuable person in the accounting department or in talent acquisition. Like, I was just getting ready to put you on the spot.
Go ahead. I don't
Alberta has
mind.
to be extremely valuable because she can't breathe. She's like really working really hard. So with that being said, but I guess the flip side of that, and I don't know if you touch about that in the book, but sometimes people confuse working hard
Yes.
with being effective at what they do.
Right.
Like
Right.
they say, well, you know what? I'm giving overtime. I'm staying late. Yeah, but what's happening? What are the results?
Right.
Yeah, you hope activity leads to accomplishment, but they're two different words.
Yeah.
Just because you're very active doesn't mean you're accomplishing.
Well, thankfully, I'm filling a lot of the requisitions too, because that's my metric, right?
If
So,
you need
yeah.
help, just
I
holler at me.
I try to get you in there. I try.
That's my shameless plug. I do it every week.
No, but
I do
I'm
it every
fine with
week.
that.
All right,
fine.
so I want to talk about becoming invaluable.
Yeah.
Because I think it's extremely important. But I really, I want to go back a little, Donald. I want to go back to when you decided this is a book that I need to write.
And this is your second one, right?
ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I know we've had some conversations. We spoke about the first book and the second book and kind of where they sit personally in your mind. And when you spoke about this particular book, I was like, this is the one that he's really like, you know what? I put something into this that I think is the direction that I was meant here to take.
Absolutely. So a long time ago, don't want to really age myself like that.
Oh, you're among friends, believe me.
Speaking of peers, right?
Probably 6 or 7 years into my career. So I had gone to University of Pennsylvania, then gotten the MBA from Pittsburgh, then started with at the time, Anderson Consulting, Arthur Anderson, then went to Price Waterhouse.
Wow, great companies,
and then
man. Great
Seriously,
career path.
right?
So I had all this pedigree, and then decided to try the startup route. And this is late 90s, so it makes sense.
Sure.
Ultimately, I was working for a company. I had what I thought was a dream job, Director of Business Development and Product Marketing.
Nice.
Like, so it kind of combined what I learned at Anderson with what I was interested in doing, and et cetera,
creative
et cetera, et cetera.
pieces,
so I was,
yeah.
two things happened to me on that job that really kind of made me think about things a little differently. And I was getting paid well and everything else, loved it. One, I don't know, it's like a Wednesday or so, the CEO comes in and he taps me on the shoulder and he says, I want to talk to you. Right at this time, I'm like 29, 30 years old. I just like, okay, sure, I'm good at what I do. So I walk into the office.
Like you're like now or like late? Like
Should we make an appointment? Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Hold on. Yeah, I'll be in. So I walk in, and he says, "We're having trouble with the vice president of marketing, and we know you have a background in marketing. So if we let her go, is that the role? Like, I just want to confirm that you want to do it."
Okay.
Okay.
I was friends with her, so I'm kind of like, I don't.
But it was going to happen anyway.
Yeah, I had nothing to do with
Yeah.
whether or not they were going to
Right.
keep her or let her go.
Yeah.
So that happened. I'm like, okay, I guess that's a compliment. He likes what I'm doing, et cetera, et cetera. Probably 3 weeks later, the second thing happened, and my boss, who reported to the CEO, we had this offsite company meeting, late 90s, right? So this is like, okay, we're about to get acquired.
Yeah.
Everybody
Right, I
gets
got
all
you.
excited. And boss taps me. He says, hey, can I talk to you real quick before the meeting? Sure. So I walk into a conference room, and it's like 20% of the company's there,
Ooh.
and we all got let go.
Wow.
Wow.
It's like, how do we go from
Right.
this conversation
Sure. Yeah, to this one.
So
to
now
this
you- Now you're
conversation?
gone. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you ever get tapped on the shoulder on a Friday,
Yeah. Usually.
Come
or
up with a reason.
Friday at
Yeah,
4
yeah,
o'clock. Friday at 4 o'clock, especially.
Get
come
sick
up
all
with
of a
reason.
sudden, right? Yeah,
And,
yeah.
you know,
please.
this is pre-iTunes and all this other stuff. So I downloaded all this stuff on Napster, that like all these songs.
Okay,
I'm like,
right.
I got an hour to get all this off my computer. So,
Oh yeah, right, exactly.
and I was working on a project that I thought was pretty important, like till midnight the night before. So it just caught me
Yeah,
so off
sure.
guard that I was like, "How does this happen?"
Well,
so
plus
anyway,
you're about to be. You were asked to be promoted too, and that. Wow.
yeah,
What
the
a
VP of
flip
marketing
the
was in the
script.
room too. And so what turned out to happen is that we weren't selling anything. So if you weren't directly building the product, trying to sell the product, or were in the room making the decisions, you're out of luck.
Sure.
Sure.
You're out of luck.
Your
So,
overhead.
Yeah, we just were running out of money.
Yeah.
And, you know, and we speak about that. Like, where do you add value? Like, once you sit down and look at yourself organizationally, where do you add value? And if you're struggling to find the answer to that, you may be in trouble.
Absolutely. So what it turned out, I was just not working on the right thing. So after that, I decided, I'm going to be a professional salesperson so I can control my destiny.
Sure.
And
Makes
I'll
sense.
have much greater insight into what's really going on and how long we can last. Because salespeople know when things are going to turn.
Yeah.
If you're any good.
And they're also building a network consistently. Yeah.
Oh, it's easier nowadays because everybody has your cell phone.
Right,
So
yeah,
this
good
is,
point, right.
It's a little bit of
Yeah. No Rolodex
a little bit
needed.
of protecting yourself.
That's a valid point. I was speaking to the gentleman that started me out in executive search, and we were talking earlier today about how difficult it was back then because I had to, especially to recruit salespeople, because I was calling into your office, but your job was to be out of your office. So how do I get in touch with Donald when he's never in the office?
Yeah.
You know, and your calls may even be your messages may be screened and pushed back to you from somebody internally. Maybe you have a sales assistant or something of that nature. It was just really difficult. Now I can kind of go on LinkedIn or call the cell phone, or, people have their cell phones on their cards and everything. Like, I can always get in touch with people. So I
Right.
get it.
Right.
That's pretty important.
So then you're tying it back into why the second book.
Sure. So I had lunch with a friend of mine probably about a year ago or whatever, and he asked me, so in 30 seconds or less, tell me how you become invaluable. So first of all, I kind of hate that question because it's like, it's not, if you really want to know, it's going to take
60 seconds.
No, I might be able to explain. I might be able to explain it in 30, but you're not going to get it in 30.
Right.
No, no.
Right. So
yeah.
why? So I said, look, I'll give you. If I had to sum up my best piece of advice and put it in one sentence, here it goes. I said, figure out how to solve important problems for influential people.
Yeah.
Okay.
And don't interchange influential with important. Like, it's important problems
For influential
people.
Gotcha.
So in that and so that's what the book really helps you do,
Nice.
right? It talks about how do you do that. So it talks about, in order to do that, you not only need a skill set so that you can actually solve problems, but you need to know what the problems are.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of us work for large corporations and never listen to like the quarterly meetings or any of that other stuff? We just we take our task list and we just go at it and we
Too many
assume.
people do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then who's influential? Like that takes. You can't just look at a title. Not every VP has influence.
Right.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And I have some friends that start out as secretaries at smaller companies and now are executives at much larger companies.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they figured out who had influence.
Right.
Yes.
And they figured out
But
how
they
to
were
solve problems. Because what ends up happening is you become a problem solver for someone that has influence. So they'll
Yeah.
just kind of pull you up and you'll start solving different problems. And next thing you know, that you've increased the perception of your value.
Yeah.
And speaking about some of earlier we spoke about the recent graduates of some of the classes that I do, and that's the big discussion. Like some of these people are new to LinkedIn, so they go out to connect with people, but are you connecting with people that are influential, like people that can really help you where you're at right now? Or are you just connecting with people because of a title and you believe them to be important? Because sometimes you can connect all day, but if Alberta's the one getting people in front of the hiring manager, that might be the connection you want to make, So
Yeah.
I get it.
And it's hard. Like, you don't necessarily know, but it's, once again, if you want to become invaluable, like, you have to figure it out. You
Yeah.
have to start asking questions and start observing and just kind of see how things are going. And I don't care if it's a 2 to 3 person mom and pop shop or, a very large Fortune 100 company.
It's a whole other skill set too, is what I need to read your book. But it's developing. Yes, that's right. We all need to read it. Everybody get out there, get on Amazon. But it just sounds like a whole other skill set for a professional to develop in order to keep developing also.
Absolutely. You're right.
That's a great
Yeah.
question. Yeah. I mean, that's a great analogy. Just
Yeah.
you have to develop that skill set as well.
Right.
Nice.
In order to keep growing and
Which is why, unfortunately, most of my talks I don't do to people that are like just going out of school. Like, I've done some university talks on around a variety of things, but when you start talking about becoming invaluable, like, you got to get a skill set. You have to understand, like, having a skill set and working hard is just the minimum.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
And a lot of a lot of 21, 22-year-olds are just trying to figure out how to work on the skill set. So I get it. So yeah, get that first. And then as soon as you get that, then you can start working on some of these other things.
I'd like to speak about that some more when we come back after the break, because I think I want to speak about some of the topics that you're speaking on right now that you believe are touching the pulse of your audience, but also just any advice that you can share with that population you just spoke about, that demographic. So we'll be right back. It's the Career Seeker Show live, WPPM
You're listening to the
106.5
Career Seeker Show
Philadelphia.
on
Let's go.
WPPM 106.5 FM. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
the Career Seeker Show live on WPPM 106.5 FM Philadelphia. What's good, Philly, man? We appreciate you for hanging out with us today as we welcome back to the city best-selling author, public speaker, business development coach, Donald Hatter. I'm here riding today with super recruiter Alberta Bloom. Got her name right for sure.
That's right. Hey, Seekers, glad to be back. Glad to be in studio with this fabulous guest. Oh my gosh, it's really so much to talk about.
Yeah, we were having some attorney talk as well. Shout out to Tiff South. Hit her up,
Miss
man.
you, Tiff.
Yeah, Tiff.
We need our weather report.
We need the weather report. Tiff has been doing some incredible things with
Yep.
that How Does She Do It podcast, too. I see you, Ma. We were texting earlier today, and she just always has such great energy. And she got some news that she's going to be sharing, too, that's outstanding. So I'm excited for you, Ma. All right, so let's bring it back. We are here again with the author of Becoming Invaluable, Donald Hatter, Forbes career coach, Forbes Coaches Council member, business development and motivational speaking. I don't want to call him a guru. I just think he just really gets it done. That's really
I think
what
it's
he
a little
does.
above a guru.
Yeah.
Is there a word for that?
We're working on it.
Working on guru.
We're working on it.
So we were having some conversations prior to coming on board, just about some of the things that you're seeing as important out here as you take on opportunities to share your message. What particular topics, titles are you touching on that you believe are really, really connecting with your listeners and your audience?
I have seen a lot lately as it relates to leadership. So a lot of kind of leadership development type presentations companies are asking for. I believe effective leadership is all about influence and not authority. And I think when we don't recognize that as an organization, as a company, we end up interchanging leader and manager. And so we work on making better managers, but not better leaders.
Okay.
And there, to me, there's a huge difference in managers versus effective leaders.
Okay.
So do a lot of talking about that. Once again, though, it's this whole becoming the invaluable leader is really more along the lines of what we talk about, and we go through how do you really maximize your influence. So it all circles back to that same theme of maximizing your influence.
So do you do workshops around that, or is it just kind of speaking and engaging, letting them share? How do you? So
both.
Okay.
Both. Last week it was a workshop put into about an hour and a half. So it was mostly speaking with some activities to show and demonstrate to people the concepts that we were talking about. But it could be a 4-hour workshop if we stretch it out. Could be an 8-hour workshop. I've done longer workshops if you're dealing with management teams and you really need to define some goals and like work through that process versus understanding what just a good goal is. So we do they
I'm sure with the teams too, it's a lot about personality and getting to know them a little bit to see how
it
they
is.
interact. And,
It is.
Yeah.
So it's like I said, it's a popular topic because what ends up happening is if you start concentrating on making better managers, you end up with companies whose active engagement is relatively low, right? So a lot of times people get promoted based upon how well they complete tasks, and it has nothing to do with helping others complete their tasks.
Yeah, if they can
like
manage people,
they're just completely two different concepts. So you hope people that are really good at completing their task are also going to be really good at helping others. But those aren't.
That's not always the case, right?
Yeah. Why I'm motivated is different than why you're motivated. So if I only work, the way I'm motivated, that doesn't necessarily help either one of you two. So you kind of get into that a lot, and you get all these definitions that talks about leaders or visionaries and this and that, and then I go through this exercise in the workshop where I throw up like these most popular brands and their vision statements and see if people can recognize what company we're talking about.
Oh, wow. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, they typically can't. So there's a whole lot that goes into the whole getting people motivated and being able to influence others. And another big thing about that is I approach it from the perspective of it really is about influence, not authority. So we really are talking to anybody inside the organization. So whether you have a title or not, whether you're managing a team or not, concepts are still the same because you want to be able to influence people that you're working with people you're working for, and if someone's working for you, you want to be able to influence them as well. So we talk about all those things.
Wow, I think maybe we need that. Have our own little team retreat, right?
Yeah. Maybe we can, I don't know, ride Donald to the airport or something. Like, we can ride him to the airport and go over this. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. As you're out and you come into an organization, so, and I don't mean to go into like how you prepare from a business standpoint, but I just from conversations that we've had, I would imagine that there's a wheelhouse for you. Like there's certain types of organizations that you target, whether it be size or who they service. But is that the case?
The industry or the vertical, yeah.
I would say my wheelhouse is not necessarily organization focused, because I'll talk to whatever organization is interested in hearing me speak on the topics that I typically talk on. From a people perspective.
Okay.
It's my wheelhouse are typically people that are kind of mid-career. So those people that are looking around and like, I'm not making any more money than I did 10 years ago. Or people that are like, I've been in this role and I've been doing really, really well for 15 years and I don't understand why I haven't gotten promoted. Right? So it's those kind of people, and they have to be motivated. It's kind of funny, in theory, we're motivational speakers.
I was going to say, but you're doing both. Yeah. That really goes into.
Well, I say they have to be motivated because I don't really believe like I motivate people. Like I can inspire and empower you, so I can give you information so that if you're motivated, you can use it. You're not really motivated. You're just not going to use it.
Just listening.
Right?
Yeah.
So
okay. All right. I see that.
It's just not going to work. But for those folks that are like, okay, how does this really work? Like I'm doing the job. I'm showing up. I don't know what to do. I'll give you an example. I was at a conference, did a leadership talk, and I was speaking to a woman afterwards. It had nothing to do with my talk. We were just talking, and she was talking about all the progress she had made at her university for the past 13 years, and she had a coworker there that was almost like her hype woman. She's like, yeah, she's good, yeah. Like,
she wear the big clock too.
Yeah. I was like, the flavor, like the big broken clock. Wow.
At least your pocket had the right time. Yeah.
And she was talking about, and she mentioned, she's like, that she had not been promoted. She didn't really understand why. So I'm kind of like, okay, it's the break. You didn't really ask me, but we're talking. So should I comment? Should I not comment it? Anyway, I was like, heck, I'm here. Let me go ahead and try and help. And I asked her, I said, so who benefits from you getting promoted? And she says, me. And I said, can me promote yourself?
Wow.
She never got it.
Wow.
Oh, really?
And that's really easy because it hit me like an anvil right now. Yeah.
But I know a lot of people. I'm like, well, who benefits from you getting promoted?
Yeah.
If you can't find someone with influence that benefits,
And that's
it
it
may
right
happen.
there.
It may not
She
happen.
answered her own question.
You know what, Donald? This takes me to another area, and I didn't even think about this until you providing that story. Do you do professional coaching? Like, do you coach individuals as well? Because that, like, I think if that person's in need of a professional coach. If you're
but they don't think they're in need.
Okay, yeah. Well, and I guess
and I say that because that's why I don't do a lot of individual coaching. I'd rather jump in front of a room and do a session with 150 people and speak to 30 people afterwards. And typically, if you've heard me talk and we've developed a connection, you can just call me and get the advice for free. I'm not even going to charge you for it, right? Because I'm there. I'm there to present to the group.
He's talking to me. I've been doing some of that.
See, the good thing about Kenneth, he's always accountable to himself. He'll just say,
"Let me talk to you real quick."
Well, and that's fine. Now, business development's a different issue. Yeah. Like I've learned, I don't tell anybody how to run their business unless they pay me.
Okay, I like it. That's a good business model.
Yeah, they don't listen, and it doesn't work out well. And I'm further and further away from my wheelhouse as we talk about. But those individuals that are like, I'm open to hearing how I go from, mid to upper level or entry to mid level, or obviously just working hard doesn't necessarily get you. Now it used to.
Yeah, and then I was going to say, a lot of people the information they received, even from a child, is that if you work hard, you'll get rewarded.
Right. That's
accordingly.
Definitely what we were
and especially,
told.
a certain generations.
Absolutely.
Like but to your point, that's really not how it works.
No.
Right now, there has to be some strategy.
My dad, both my parents have passed. My dad was a government worker, so it literally was lockstep.
Exactly.
And my mom retired as a lieutenant colonel in the Army. So
wow.
it just, for those, for the VA hospital and the Army, you show up, work hard, and
you do.
You'll get to where you want to be.
Right, exactly.
You'll get great retirement benefits and all that. But for everyone else, it's more to it than you think about.
A lot of times you have to go. Well, I know in my career a long time ago, I had to go to another company in order to be promoted, and it was either because just wasn't recognized for it yet, or there were people. There was a ceiling. I would have had to stay there a while.
Just for the entire room, for that matter. Sometimes there are some other things that you can see that say, I'm a woman. I might need to go in another direction to a company that kind of values what I bring as a woman as well. Or, if you're an African-American male, sometimes you might need to get out of the way of some people and go somewhere else to be treated fairly. And that's just real.
Yeah.
People don't like to bridge that conversation. But
you have to.
The bodies are on the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, you got this is the conversation.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
After you step over enough of them, you're like, okay, let me stop. Let me step to the
left or to the right. Right. Exactly. I was and looking at the title of your book, and you speak about perceived value, and I think that probably gets in a lot of people's way. You're perceiving your value as being something that's clearly not based on the results.
Absolutely, and it's really other people's perception of you.
There you go.
Right,
okay,
right? It's not your perceived
perception,
value.
right?
Because even things as simple as I try and tell people, you need to understand what your unique business value is. And when I ask people to tell me what their unique business value is, all they do is tell me how they're good at what they do. And I say, well, yeah, but that doesn't necessarily make you unique, right? So if I hire you, I give you some tasks, you complete the task. That's nothing special to me, right? The same way I expect you to do that, the same way you expect the check to clear, right? So we're not really gaining anything by you just doing that and me paying you. We need to figure out how to be.
And that's the resume piece. When people list their duties and responsibilities versus accomplishments and wins. It's like, well, yeah, we expected you to answer the phone. Like you're the receptionist.
Right.
Like that's, but, not to take it to that level, but you understand the point. Like people, they'll say, well, what's your value? Well, I answer the phone. Okay, well, that's your job, right? Like we pay you.
Yeah.
So
I was having that conversation. I was working with a Penn student who has, I guess, become, as of last week, a mentee of mine. I don't know.
You said that people are free to call you.
Don't put him in my time slot, Donald. Do not put this student in my time slot.
And he was supposed to have sent me the resume so I could send it to you. Anyway.
Okay.
But I had that exact conversation with him. I'm like, son, there's no, and he had 4 jobs. So for a college student, 4 jobs. That's
pretty really good. Yeah.
But you need some more meat, some more accomplishments to it. So no, I absolutely agree with you. People don't necessarily think that way. The other thing I think, when people are trying to advance in their career, I think they always should be in a situation where they're trying to figure out how they impact the bottom line.
Right.
So if you're in a revenue generating position, that becomes fairly easy. But if you're not, you still need to think about it because that's the way decisions are getting made.
Right.
So, and folks don't understand that. So when I'm a company executive and we need mass layoffs, like in that situation I described to you, no one's looking at reviews. No, they're looking at
numbers.
How does this, and if I get rid of this person, does it mean this or does it mean that? So as you go throughout your job, even if you're not tied directly to a revenue generating role, always figure out how you can decrease costs or increase revenue. Right? It may be, it could be any number of things that you simply do. I have a really good friend of mine. We went to Penn. He went to Harvard Business School. top-notch consulting. We were together in Austin, and I think we were both on the business development side, but essentially what he did was figured out how to take something we were spending a lot of money on, and he turned it into a product.
Nice.
Oh,
He's like, why don't we sell this?
okay.
And his career after that point, it was a completely different thing for him. Now, he was always a smart guy.
Yeah.
He always worked hard and still is, like one of the brightest people I know. But just by flipping one switch, he goes from being average manager to vice president to blah, 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 blah. And he's just taken off.
You know, you spoke about some of the professional speakers that you listen to, and I listened to quite a few as well. But I think that's the piece a lot of them speak about is how often do you think? Do you even set time aside to think? And it sounds like your friend there just decided, you know what, let me step away from doing it and think about it.
Right.
And the idea
And there
came.
it was, yeah.
You know, this thing called life just takes us
Boy, I know that.
and makes us not really concentrate on some things because we're concentrating on other things.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
But no, you're absolutely right that let me just sit and think about how I'm perceived. Like, what is such as, because we'll sit there and argue with how we might be perceived.
Yeah, arguing with how someone else perceives you.
Like
Yeah.
you can't win that. Well,
Yeah.
she thinks or he thinks well, guess what? You work for that
That's
person.
real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that matters.
Yeah.
That matters. So,
Yeah.
and that's why, like I said, it's not just, it's not a manipulative thing, right? It's not running into work one Saturday and posting on Facebook that you're at work, like trying to imply that you're there every
Right.
Saturday. Right? It's
Or
not-
sending 3 a.m. emails.
exactly. I've done that before. Let's cue it up.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Because I wake up during the middle of the night and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to send it at 4 a.m.
Yeah, there we go.
That's right.
Yeah, most of it. Yeah, that's not what we're talking about.
No.
Exactly. So Donald, please, any closing remarks that you'd like to part on our listeners? I definitely want you to let people know how to get in contact with you, but even something more valuable than that, of course. But I'd like for you to share any parting information that you have.
So I could probably share a number of things. One thing that I just saw as I was literally glancing through the book an hour ago that really, I think as a country we need to actually understand this. I talk about at the end of the day, like I said, you want to be able to solve important problems for influential people. But a large part of that is if you do all this that I talk about in the book correctly, you still have to assure people on your ability to deliver, right? So I can position myself, I can get to the right people, I can get on the right project, but I need to convince them that I can come through. And a couple of things that need to be done in that process is remaining credible and being consistent. I don't know what's happened, but this whole credibility issue thing. I mean,
People
now
don't do what
we're
they
in a
say.
day and age where people feel like they can say anything.
Anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
And some people do
Right.
Yeah.
and still
Other people think
ascend
it's
to certain
okay.
offices.
Yeah.
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 But if you're in your career and like you have to be consistent and you have to be credible. Like you can have the greatest skill set, but if every time you tell me something, I have to think about whether or not it's actually going to happen or you're actually going to do it, it gets in the way of
Yeah.
you gets in the way of you really advancing it. And once
Right.
again, our environment is such that we think you could just say anything, or will it just come up with an excuse for something?
There's a lot of people that's all they
It's
do.
like that.
Yeah.
That negatively impacts
Yeah.
the perception of your value, and you
Yeah.
think, I mean, I know people. Oh, that sounded really good. Okay, I'm gonna use it.
Right.
Like, no,
They think
no.
they think an excuse is an okay reason, and that's a completely different.
Yes, you're always gonna be stuck.
Yeah.
So how do our listeners stay in tune or in touch with Donald Hatter?
Absolutely. So you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Twitter handle is dhatter Jr. So DHATTER Jr. And website is www.donaldhatter.com. So any of those means.
Man,
will
we
work.
appreciate you coming out today. Thank you so very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we
Thank
did it
you.
again. Man,
Yes.
listen, this
Thanks for
man
having
came
me. I
all the
enjoyed
way
it.
from Texas to spend some time sharing his information with the hometown team, the Career Seekers Show. We do it every Wednesday, 4 to 5, live on WPPM 106.5 here in Philadelphia, streaming live at phillycam.org. Everybody on the live stream, we appreciate you. All of our friends and family checking in on the East Coast Executive Facebook fan page. Thank you so very much as well. We'll do it again next week. Wow, we got a young lady that's going to come and talk about an upcoming career fair in West Philadelphia, so I'm excited to have her. Charity, we got you next week. It's the Career Seeker Show. Let's go, WPPM LP Philadelphia.
Have a great
Thank
week,
you.
Seekers.
Enjoyed it.
In ways I ain't expect you to be. Thank you for being family before anything more. It means